I haven't done one of these videos in a little while. You know, whatever. But today is the anniversary of when the big incident happened at the lake. So it has been 4 years. Jeez, I can't even believe that. 4 freaking years. By the way, I am also going to continue putting makeup on while I do this video because I don't want to cry, and maybe I won't if I'm putting makeup on. We'll see. Yeah, so anniversaries are always interesting, I feel, because it's like, why does that matter? Especially anniversaries of not so happy situations. Like, you always remember the things that happened to you, especially the more traumatic things. And so why is it that you think about it more when there's an anniversary for something? Like, that really truly makes almost no sense to me. But in any event, that's where I'm at today. Like, just really anxious, and I don't particularly feel good. I'm just like reflecting on all of the crap that has happened since then as a result of that night. So I think that's part of what's making it a little heavier this year, because previous years, obviously, he and I were still together, we were still a family, we were still living in our house. So it just felt different. Coincidentally, this day last year was the day that I really decided that I needed to leave. Like, I had accepted that, okay, like, this probably at this point, however many years later, like, if it hasn't gotten a little better, like, probably not going to really get better at all. And we had a huge fight this day last year because I was super upset. I kind of react to things like this differently every year. Just, I don't know, just depends. I was super upset and not dealing well with it. I think that's pretty reasonable and understandable. But when trying to communicate about it to him, it was like, well, you don't get to be upset because you're not the one dealing with it. And so in that moment, I was just like, yeah, I am dealing with it. every freaking day. And so are these two kids who didn't ask for it, as well as, you know, other people in your life. It didn't just affect me, the boys, and you. Like, it affected my family, his family, friends, like, work. So I just felt like very alone and almost even a little bit crazy for having those feelings. Even a little bit guilty, like I was making it all about me when I shouldn't have been. Part of his reasoning for making that comment is that he was having to go through veterans court, so they make you drug tests once a week, sometimes twice a week. You have to go check in with the judge, blah blah blah. So he always felt, well, I don't know how he felt, but it always seemed as though he felt super like victimized by that. Like, oh my gosh, this is such an inconvenience to my life. Why do I have to go through all of this? And it's like, I get to deal with this every day for the rest of my life, as do my kids. Like, do I have to go take a drug test once a week? No, but I also don't do drugs or get wasted. And I didn't physically abuse people or hold a gun to my spouse's head. Oh, like, there's that. So gosh, it's just been an up and down day, and it's like people say, oh well, at least you got out of it, like, look how much better you're doing now and how much progress you've made. It's like, yeah, I know that because I am living that every day, so I'm well aware that I was lucky. Look how funny it is with one eyebrow. Well aware, like, how lucky I am to have gotten out of that situation and that I wasn't dead. And I totally understand some people aren't that fortunate. I got it. But you know what? When I'm in my feelings today, having to reflect on the most traumatic thing that will likely ever happen in my life and my kid's life, I need to feel validated in that. I've got 2 kids who are in therapy once a week. I'm in therapy once a week. I had that whole job situation happen with my old job because of everything I was going through. I freaking sold just about everything I own. Like, I really don't have much of anything except for the bedroom set that I bought and stuff that my mom left here for us when she moved out. Struggling a lot financially right now. And it's so frustrating because I'm like, why do I have to suffer like this? Feel this way, work my ass off, struggle financially, have all this mom guilt about what the boys went through and are gonna continue to go through for their whole lives, and like, he just got to walk away and go live his life. And that's not to say he doesn't think about it or have a hard time with it. He's a human, so I'm sure he does. But it's very different, right? Like, it's not in his face every freaking day. He didn't have to make a decision to have his own child not live with him anymore, because there's so much trauma. Like, there's this big part of me that wishes I could make him feel what I have to feel and make him understand what I have to feel and what I have to go through. And it will be for the rest of my life and for the boys' lives, and I think they will always have a certain level of resentment towards me because of it, and I think that's totally normal. Like, I've accepted that, and I totally don't blame them for having those feelings. But damn, it's gonna affect every part of my life, every part of their life. It's gonna affect their future relationships, how they parent. And it's just really freaking frustrating. Really freaking frustrating. It's not something that I want to remember ever, because it just makes me sick, absolutely sick inside to think about. And it's like all day, certain, I don't know if you call them flashbacks, but just certain memories or parts of what happened that night will just come back, and it's like you're right back there again. Waking up this morning, I almost felt like I was back in the situation, like the morning I woke after all of it happened, and feeling like, okay, this is just a dream. Like, I actually turned over in bed and reached my arm over to try and give him a hug and cuddle with him. I realized he wasn't there. And I was just a freaking mess, and didn't feel like I could really talk to anybody about it. I felt like I needed to protect his privacy, the boys' privacy, and just kind of, I don't know, you feel ashamed talking about something like that. You feel like it's your fault. So talking to somebody about how you feel like a victim in something like that just feels really stupid. Like, I'm not the one who's in jail right now. He's the one in jail. Like, I should feel bad for him, not myself. And I still struggle with knowing what the right answer is for that. There is no right answer. So today, I wish I could be in a place where I could feel and say, like, I am so grateful to have survived that, or kind of one of those things where it's like, if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be where I am now. And maybe there's something to be said for that, but I don't think I'll ever feel like that situation added anything positive to my life. And yeah, I've made huge progress and a lot of changes, and I'm happy and in a much better place. But I didn't need that to get here, I don't think. The stuff I had gone through before that was more than enough. Everything during the divorce, more than enough. I don't know what the end goal of this video is. It's a really hard thing to talk about because there's almost nobody who understands. And then, like I said, you get these comments that are like, oh, well, at least you survived, or you're out now, or you're doing so much better now, and look how good you're doing. Like, yeah, I know that. But that doesn't make that night or that situation go away. And more than anything, like, the one thing that always sticks out in my mind that I can't seem to work through is the sound that came out of the boy's mouth when they saw him holding the gun to my head. And the fact that they had to say, please don't kill our mom. No kid should ever have to say that. And it just freaking plays on repeat in my head all the time. I can still hear the screams. And I've never heard anybody scream like that in my life. So, to wrap all this up, I want to say good on me for not crying. Like, little tears, not bad. As far as domestic violence and domestic abuse, if you've not experienced it firsthand, or even if you have, like, don't make assumptions about how somebody's feeling about it. Don't say, you're smarter than that, you have so much going for you, why don't you just leave? Why do you stay? Why do you keep going back? And I'll never have the right answer for that. But just, like, please, just, if you know or hear of somebody in that situation, my encouragement to you would just be to set boundaries for yourself, to what you're comfortable with hearing and listening to, but also just listen and support. I can promise you that you telling somebody that they should leave, or that he's such a piece of shit, or that you're better than that, isn't gonna affect their decision. All it's gonna do is make them feel more alone. So outside of just trying to be aware and help if you are asked to, and then just, kind of, it sucks because, right, you don't want to let your friend or your daughter or whoever go home knowing that they're being abused, right? But in that circumstance, like, sometimes there's really nothing you can do. But what you can do is don't alienate that person unless it's crossing your boundaries, and be aware of what's going on so that if and when things really start to get out of control, or you're legitimately scared for somebody's life, like, you gotta just kind of stay out of it. People have to come to that realization on their own and when they're ready, because it is an insanely hard thing to do. Probably one of the hardest things I ever have had to do and might ever have to do is decide to leave that situation. For whatever reason, you just love that person so freaking much that the thought of not having them in your life is absolutely excruciating. So like I always say, just make an effort to be kind, and to the extent that you can, be empathetic. Don't be one of those people that says, oh, well, you're better off now, or like turn around and say, tell your own story. Like, oh yeah, this one time, blah, blah, blah happened to me, so I know how you feel. No, you don't. You don't know how I feel. And probably the story that you're telling me in comparison is nothing like having your husband hold a gun to your head. That's a pretty unique situation. So, just little tips. I think that's it. Be kind, be caring. Realize when you're interacting with people or whatever, realize that you don't know what's going on in their life. And there were many times after that where I was a fucking mess, like hanging on by a thread, and you would go into a store or whatever you had to do, and you're just constantly looking at how other people are looking at you. And that just comes and goes. And like one time when my mom and I went to go pick out my bedroom set at RC Willie, I was doing pretty okay, and then it came time to pay for it and pick a delivery date and all of that stuff. And I was in the middle of that room where they have all the mattresses and stuff that you try out, and I just collapsed and started crying my eyes out in front of everybody. People were staring at me. The poor freaking salesman was like trying to not notice and get the information from my mom. However, in that moment, people noticed what was happening and just left it alone. And sometimes that's the best thing you can do. Give somebody a little smile. Maybe make a nice little compliment in passing. But don't dig. Do not dig, because most likely it's not something they want to talk about. They just want to cry, and that's okay. So, I am working both of my jobs today with the intent of really just staying busy, because I know that if I don't, I'm just gonna be in my head and in my feelings, and that is sometimes a dangerous place for me to be. I know how quickly I can spiral out of control when I start feeling those things, and I just can't let that happen. So hopefully it will be a very busy night at the old Red Robin, and if anybody wants to stop by and say hi, I will be there. So I don't know what else to say. Thank you for putting up with my no makeup face and my one eyebrow.